everyone, welcome to another video. It is finally time to discuss the final film I saw at this year's Brisbane International Film Festival. I went to the Australian premiere of Taika Waititi's latest film, Next Goal Wins. This is going to be a massive review and I cannot wait to get into it with you guys. So there's a lot of things that I'm going to be talking about here, from my experience at the premiere, why Taika Waititi is so significant to me, as well as a full review of this film. I'm going to have timestamps everywhere so that you can just jump around to wherever you want, go at your own pace, see whatever you want to see. So let's start with the premiere itself. This is the second closing night of a Brisbane International Film Festival that I've ever been to. The one previously was for Memoria, which I did not come out of that movie enjoying, even though I had a great experience. And I think that is the first thing I really want to mention. Even though I had a really good time at these events, they do not influence the scores of the films. That I judge solely on its own merit. And that is no different here. But the premiere here was fantastic. There were dances, there was a great display of culture. All of the people that organised the film festival were there. There were a couple of Australian actors and actresses there. It was really, really cool. And I got to go with my fiance and my friends, and it was just such a great time. If you ever get the opportunity to go to a closing or opening night of a film festival, definitely try to, because the atmosphere is just so much different. We also got these as well. It was just so cool. We were just right in that atmosphere. It felt like a really important screening. There was so much buzz in the air for this movie. And I think it was the perfect movie to cap off the film festival. You know, you see so many movies. It's hard not to get exhausted by the end of it, especially with the schedule that I was having. I was having to work my full-time job still, go straight to a movie, and then come home. I probably wouldn't normally go to bed till about 1 or 2 in the morning, and I'd be doing that day after day after day. It was definitely tough, but it was so fun. It's always so fun. It's always worth it. That's why I do it every year. But you know, at the end of the film festival, you don't want something too slow or too intense. You just want something pretty lighthearted and fun. And that's what Next Goal Wins aims to provide. So I was pretty happy with the scheduling of this film. What made this even more special was the fact that this is a Taika Waititi film, a filmmaker who has really hit me on a real personal note over the years. Ever since he got his start in Eagle vs. Shark, the first thing I ever saw from him was Boy, as well as a couple of the episodes he directed in Flight of the Conchords. As I've mentioned on this channel, I was born in New Zealand, half of my family is from New Zealand, but I've lived in Australia for most of my life and the other half of my family is from Australia. So I have a really good understanding of both cultures. And Taika Waititi, his films really connect with me in terms of my New Zealand side. Every single part of it just feels so accurate, especially a film like Boy that just really highlights the realness of New Zealand culture. That movie is so monumental in that country. Everyone knows what the Crazy Horses are. It's constantly referenced. So many people from New Zealand have seen that movie and loved it, me included. And that kind of leads me into Next Goal Wins. Of course, he's not discussing New Zealand here, he's talking about American Samoa. But when you're from New Zealand and you're exposed to Maori culture, you also get exposed to a lot of other cultures, because a lot of the Pacific Islands and Polynesian culture, there's a lot of it in both New Zealand and parts of Australia. So I have had my fair share of exposure to a lot of Polynesian culture. Not as much with American Samoan as New Zealand, of course, but I do have some knowledge, which makes the discourse around Next Goal Wins feel so inaccurate by some reviewers, especially ones that saw it at TIFF who have no understanding of the culture. Because what I experienced from Next Goal Wins was a real great moment of representation for Polynesian culture. It's what Taika Waititi always brings to the table. And he said this multiple times in interviews. He doesn't want to focus on the negative aspects of exploring another race or talk about discrimination or the hardships that they've gone through.
Seeing First Nations people in a lot of film and stuff, it's always, you know, everyone's always just stoic and serious and, you know, standing on mountains, you know, playing flutes and, like, you know, talking to ghosts of your grandmother and, like, you know, like, but we are funny people and we take the piss out of each other all the time, and it's just, that's who we are. And so for us, it's always weird to see ourselves portrayed in that way in a film. And I feel like this is just a more authentic representation.
Being fair in this review, I think if you have not liked a lot of what Taika Waititi brings to the table, you're not going to like this. It's the same style of comedy, a similar style of film. To me, it feels like he's going back to his roots a little bit more. He's finally going away from the Thors, where that was the most diluted form of Taika Waititi that you could get. When you watch his more independent stuff, when you watch A Boy, A Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows, you see a more complete vision of what Taika Waititi brings to the table. And I really noticed that a lot more here and found that this film was really, really enjoyable. I had so much fun with Next Goal Wins. I thought it hit everywhere that it needed to, and I am at a complete loss as to why this film is getting a lot of criticism that I kind of thought was unfair. And having a discussion with quite a few people afterwards, they seem to agree with me. So I really am at a loss as to why this film in particular is getting a lot of criticism. Sure, it does focus on some delicate topics for sure. There is a full arc with a trans character. However, I thought it was handled quite delicately with a lot of empathy. They're not the main character. That may be the issue here. It doesn't focus on them. They are a side character. It's more of a subplot. We are focusing on Michael Fassbender's character here. But the arc itself is one of the highlights of the film. It is the emotional crux of the film at points. And I really, really enjoyed the portrayal. It felt like it came from a place of empathy and compassion rather than just a forced form of diversity in a film. It's showing more or less the real story. Of course, there's going to be some embellishments of a film compared to real life. That happens all the time, and I'm sure this is no different. But for the most part, I thought it does a great job of showcasing this story. And this story is both inspirational, hilarious. The only issue I have with it truly is that it does follow a similar structure to your typical sports underdog story narrative. It does 100%. It's similar beats, a similar arc, it's all there. However, it's just done in a way that represents Taika Waititi's style of filmmaking, with the jokes and the sudden injection of real sad moments. It's all there, and I really like the structure of this film. The film flies by. It was very entertaining. I hear so many people saying that this was unfunny, yet at my screening, the majority of them were laughing out loud and having a good time. I thought the jokes landed. Of course, that is completely subjective and up to you, of course, whether you agree with that style of comedy. I understand that everyone has a different sense of humor. So if his type of sense of humor doesn't hit with you, this isn't going to change that. However, if it does click with you, you're going to have such a great time. And I think if you are someone who are from these countries, you're going to really enjoy the film and what it does. It is definitely funny, but I don't think it's poking fun at anyone. I think it's genuinely showing how upbeat these people are in times where we would be so negative. And that juxtaposition is what makes it funny. We're not making fun of a person. We're just kind of understanding their differences, and that's what makes it funny because we're so disconnected at times from that. I think the film is equally heartwarming as it is funny. The whole American Samoan team and the people that play them are all fantastic. They are just so great at what they do. There's all these jokes about how many jobs that people on these islands have, and overall I thought the comedic timing was perfect. There's a running gag that goes on about them just wanting to score one goal that I thought worked incredibly well, especially across from Michael Fassbender's Thomas Rongan, who is so negative in his mindset, and having these two clash with each other, just someone who's outright positive and someone who's outright negative, and having them come together is just a really fun creative choice that has so many opportunities for comedy and drama. And I think Taika Waititi really weaves that excellently. Going back into the trans arc, the character in this role, played by Kaimana, absolutely kills it in their role. It was absolutely fantastic. They really hit their stride when they needed to. There were great moments of poignancy as well as just laugh out loud hilarious moments. Kaimana played really well across from Michael Fassbender. Some of the best scenes of this film had the two of them, and some of them might make you tear up at times. They're very, very well executed. And now going into Michael Fassbender's performance, I need to say it is just so good and refreshing to have him back. He was just so good beforehand, and not really realizing what I was missing during that break when he was gone. And now seeing The Killer and now Next Girl Wins, almost the duality of man here, two completely different performances, and he kills it in both. And this, absolutely brilliant stuff. He's angry, he is sad, and he's funny. He hits all of the beats he really needs to. There is one scene in particular, it's a massive standout, and once again, just really well executed. The performance really hit. And I cannot go throughout this review without mentioning how hilarious Oscar Kitely is, who just would keep me laughing. Every single joke he said landed for me 100% of the time. He was absolutely brilliant. Look, as I said, the only real negative I have is that the structure of the film is just kind of generic. You've seen it before. And the cinematography, I guess, isn't that much to look at, especially for a Taika Waititi film. It's kind of surprising because he does have some really pretty movies. This is on the lower end for him, I think, but it's still reasonably well shot. Another thing I really want to discuss as well is the framing device in the third act. A lot of people have been talking about it. It's been kind of divisive. I tend to really enjoy it. It strays away from what we're used to in this genre. Some people might think it's a boneheaded decision, but I quite liked it. It showed every character's perspective in a much more unique way and kind of showed us the significance of these moments to the characters individually. So I really, really enjoyed the framing device in the third act. Overall, Next Girl Wins is just another knockout for me from Taika Waititi. He absolutely kills it here. I know I've said that before on some movies that I kind of regret saying that on, but this one, it just feels completely different. I really, really enjoyed it. I think that Taika Waititi, I kind of agree with everyone. He needs to stay away from Thor and Star Wars because I think he's just so much better making his own unique stuff that's far more personal to him, because I think that's where we see him at his best. So I really want to see more of that instead of these big blockbuster movies where they kind of dilute who he is as a filmmaker. And I encourage you to please watch a lot of his earlier stuff where he really started to get his break, because I see so many people who bag on him only talk about basically the Thor movies and Jojo Rabbit. He's so much more than that. Jojo Rabbit's fantastic, we all know that. And the Thor movies, I think you just really see once again a diluted version of his style of filmmaking, even if they can be kind of stylish and okay as superhero movies. But when you watch a lot of his earlier stuff, if you watch Boy and What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People, even Eagle vs. Shark, you get exposed to a very unique style of filmmaking that is completely different from anything you've really seen before. So I really highly recommend you check out all that stuff as well. And I do recommend you check out Next Girl Wins. Despite what anyone says, I absolutely love this film, and no one can convince me otherwise. I'm going to give this film a 4.5 out of 5, and I thought it was a fantastic finish to the Brisbane International Film Festival. Easily the best film festival I have ever been to. It has been such a blast, and I've had so much fun talking about all of these movies with you guys. If you haven't seen some of them, I have a playlist up above me, so make sure to check it out. I will have a full ranking of the film festival movies in the coming days, so make sure to look out for that. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.